Hey guys, this is Mr. Rob, and I'm going to bring you a short video on the distance formula. This is actually a great little formula that will give you a good review of some things you learned in Algebra 1, and it appears often in the beginning of a geometry class. So first we're going to talk about what is the distance formula exactly. I'm just going to go ahead and start with giving you the formula. You're going to see this, d equals, d for distance, the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. You may see these change sometimes. This may have x over here. The x is in front, the y is in the back. But either way, it's going to work out. So you need to remember from Algebra 1, when you see y2 and y1 and x2 and x1, you got to realize that we're going to be dealing with 2 points on a coordinate plane. And this is how we keep track of which one is which. So I always try to remind my students that if I have 2 points, one point will be xy, the other point will be xy. If this is number 1, point A, and point B, for example, I just try to remember that if this point is x1, this one has to be y1. If this is x2, this has to be y2. They go together. This helps us keep track of which order that we're going to do the subtraction in. Okay? So let me go ahead and pull an example up here of what this is going to look like. All right, we've got example 1 here. Hopefully it's big enough that you guys can see it. I know I've got one little shadow in there, but I'm not in the best lit place of all time, so we're gonna have to deal with that. All right, so example 1 here. I've got these 2 points. Call this point A, call this point B. Okay, and you should remember from Algebra 1 that when we find the coordinates for these points, this is the point 2, 7. So A is 2, 7, and this is the point 5, 3. Okay, we've got the point 5, 3 here. All right, so I'm going to go up here, I'm going to write d equals distance formula, the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. So another algebra review here. Remember that this square root symbol, called a radical, is a grouping symbol. So in our order of operations, we're actually going to do this last. Okay, so let's look at what our, let's call this point A, we'll make this be my 1's. So this is going to be x1, y1. This is going to be x2, y2. So y2 is 3 minus y1, which is 7. x2 is 5. y1, oops, sorry, that's a minus there, sorry about that. y1 is 2. Okay, so as we continue on here to show our work, 3 minus 7 is going to be negative 4 squared. 5 minus 2 is 3 squared. We're still going to have the square root of these. Negative 4 squared is 16. 3 squared is 9. Okay, so this is one thing I wanted to point out to you about the distance formula that is pretty cool. The reason we have this square, even if we subtract and we get a negative number, by squaring it, it will make it a positive number because the square of any negative number will be positive. So this is really important because when we're dealing with distance, there's no such thing as negative distance. So these squared symbols in here help us get it in the positive category. All right, so 16 plus 9 is 25, and you should all know that the square root of 25 is 5. So this distance here is 5. I just want to show you another sort of shortcut trick about this. If you notice, we have 4 and 3 up here. This is very closely related to what this would be if it were a triangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. This length would be 4, and this length would be 3. I'm not going to go into this today in this video. Maybe in another one I'll catch you up on this. But later in geometry, you'll probably come across something called the Pythagorean theorem, and the distance formula and the Pythagorean theorem are very, very closely related, and the Pythagorean theorem deals with triangles. So just keep in mind that if you want to check yourself on these two numbers, the absolute value of these numbers should be equal to the length of what would make a triangle out of this picture. So there's the first example for you. So let's go ahead and look at a second example. So here is example number 2. Let's go ahead and label these again. Point A and point B. Our coordinates are 2, 5, and 5, -1. Okay, get a little negative in here, a little practice. Again, like I said, this is going to be good practice from your algebra class. If you want to, you can go ahead and pause the video right now and try this on your own based on the formula that we gave you before. If not, see it again. So why don't you go ahead and pause it now if you need that. Okay. For those that are still with me, not pausing it, or if you're back, obviously, from checking it out, let's check our answers here. So again, we're going to do the distance is going to be equal to the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. Just to show that it can be done the other way, let's call this one down here now our x and y1, and this one up here our x and y2, to show you that it doesn't matter which direction you go. You don't have to go left to right. As long as you go from this or from the same coordinate, subtract the other coordinate in both cases. You have to be consistent in that. So down here, we're going to call this 1 and 2. I'll put a little note here to remind myself. Okay, so y2 is going to be 5. y1 is going to be -1. Okay. Then x2 is going to be 2. x1 is going to be 5. Sorry about this is here in the way, but that's just part of the scale from my graph. All right, so let's practice some of our algebra skills here. Remember, when we minus a negative, or arithmetic skills I should say, 5 minus -1, that's the same as adding 1. So we have 6 squared plus 2 take away 3, or 2 take away 5, -3 squared. So we're getting closer here. Let's square these. 36 plus 9 is going to be the square root of 45. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this with a calculator, which you can do, and say that this is going to be the square root, or the square root of 45 is going to be approximately equal to 6.7. Also, if you need to simplify that for your teacher, you can do that as well, and it should be the exact answer would be 3 times the square root of 5. If this is too much for you, don't worry about it. That's maybe for somebody working on a different class. But if you use a calculator, it should be approximately equal to 6.7. All right. Good job. We're going to do a third example here, and then we'll turn you loose and let you get working on whatever your project is that you need to be doing with this. All right, again, I'm going to label these A and B. This one here is, my point is -5, 1, 2, 3. And this point is 5, 6, 7, -2. All right, this is going to be 7, -2. If you want to pause again here to work it on your own, go ahead and do that now, and just come on back in when you're ready, hit play, and I'll have the answer waiting for you. Okay, D equals the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. All right, I'm a pretty big stickler on showing my work, so I like to write the formula, plug into the formula, and then show you each step. The more work you show, the happier your teachers generally are. It shows us that the process that you're working on. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill this in. I'm going to call this one up here 2, and this one down here 1. So this is going to be, again, x2, y2. This is going to be x1, y1. So y2 is going to be 3 minus -2 squared plus, Now we're on our x's. x2 is negative 5 minus 7 squared. D equals, here we go. So 3 plus 2 is 5 squared. This is negative 7, or negative 5 minus 7, that's negative 12 squared. So 25 plus 144 gives us 169, which is 13. So there you go with the distance formula. I hope that helps you get started on that. Check in for another video coming soon about how this is related to the Pythagorean theorem, and if you want some more explanation on that. If you're taking this class for Mr. Noah, if you're watching this video for his class, I need you to go ahead and answer one question for me and send it to him as an email to prove that you watched the video, and that is, what is the capital of the United Arab Emirates, the UAE? And I'll go ahead and just tell you the answer, that it's the city called Abu Dhabi. I'll write this on here for you, Abu Dhabi. So you need to email Mr. Noah this, tell him that the capital of UAE is Abu Dhabi, and he'll make sure you get credit for watching the video. Thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll look forward to seeing you again and giving you some more information on some other things. Thanks.